that was the way we did it.
Let's just do a quick audio check real quick first. So just talk it at like a normal volume and go ahead and say something.
I can't do that. I'm sorry.
Well, Jeff, I'll tone you down a little in post.
Jeff doesn't understand how to do normal volume. That's all right, though.
Well, what's crazy is when he gets really talking loud, then I got started talking loud.
I get excited about this stuff.
Everybody will talk about
40 years of being around heavy, like, diesel engines.
That'll do it. I'm pretty much deaf at this point anyway. Welcome back to the Astrocast. I'm your host, Rue. Today is Sunday, November... What's Sunday going to be? 29th? It's actually Friday and nearly Saturday, but we're going to say Sunday. It's new moon.
30th.
Sunday the 30th.
No, it'll be the 31st, actually.
The 31st.
Yeah,
okay, well,
we don't know
Thanksgiving came late this year.
Wait. It's December the 1st.
So if you haven't figured it out by now, we are actually doing a special episode this week. We are live on site at Gale Rigsby Observatory, and we are with our friends from Dark Dragons Astro, as well as another friend of mine by the name of Ricky. Why don't, Ricky, introduce yourself to the people.
What's up, guys? Yeah, I'm just another nerd like everybody else, I guess. I love taking pictures of the sky and looking at that stuff. I have a website out there if you want to check it out. It's rickymcdaniel.net.
Good stuff.
But yeah, it's just another Astro
Another
taker.
fellow Astro geek. I love it.
Ricky, you got an Astro bin?
No, I don't actually. No,
You should. We all should. I don't have one yet.
Yeah, I need to start doing that.
You got an Astro bin, right?
I do have an Astro bin. So
can you scoot up just a little bit more?
yeah, so
I was going to say, let's get
a little bit closer.
Yeah, there we go. All right. Sorry, we're working on the fly here. I didn't bring any recording equipment, but it was too good of a situation to pass up. So if the audio quality isn't quite like normal, that's why. But you guys will be okay with that, I'm quite sure. So anyway, Rick, this will be your second time on the show. If you remember, if you're a longtime listener, you may remember back on episode 7, I actually interviewed Rick, which seems like an eternity ago. Now that we're almost a year into this project. So, Rick, introduce yourself.
Yeah, so I'm Rick Basham. You may know me from the previous episode as the director of the Gale Rigsby Observatory, which is the observatory home of the Charlotte Amateur Astronomers Club. But I guess tonight I'm wearing a different hat as one of the founders of Dark Dragons Astronomy. And we're going to talk a little bit about some of our products that we've got and, just kind of, chat about astronomy and astrophotography in general. So,
which is what's so great about being a part of a club, right?
Absolutely. And, I've been doing astrophotography now for about 15 years. And so, yeah.
A lot more experience than me. Me and Ricky are relative newcomers, and you guys are the wise sages.
Yeah, we learned how to do astrophotography before there were lots of really great tools like the ASI Air that make things like polar alignment super easy.
Super quick, easy. Was Push Here Dummy available?
Yeah, when PhD was available. But
back in my day.
But yeah, it's definitely gotten a lot easier. The barrier to entry in this hobby has dropped so much over the past 5 to 10 years.
Yeah,
it's really been great. So,
and that's technology.
Yep.
Yeah, it is.
Yep.
Jeff, introduce yourself.
I'm Jeffrey Geis. I'm co-founder of Dark Dragons Astronomy, and also probably 15 years in astrophotography.
What got you into it?
My wife.
Your wife? That's backwards from what I normally hear.
So what happened was I would get about this time of year, that question that many married folks might get. What do you want for Christmas?
Ah, yes. I know that one all too well.
And the answer was usually, I don't know. I got to go to work.
Same.
I got to pick up the kids. I got to do this. I'm not thinking about myself. And then, what do you want for Christmas? A week later. What do you want for Christmas?
Yep.
And I remember going out the door one day. She's like, I need to know. I'm like, okay, I've always wanted a telescope. I forgot about it. Christmas morning, I don't know, maybe 3 weeks later. She's like, I got the biggest box. I mean, we had little kids. They should have had the biggest box.
They're
but
huge.
There was an 8-inch Zoomel, a brand they don't even make anymore. 8-inch Newtonian on a Dob.
Beautiful.
F4. I mean, look, a bazooka.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
But more importantly than that, she also bought me a membership to this club.
Yes.
Oh, that's
which is huge. Because, like, without the benefit of like-minded individuals, particularly 15 years ago, like when the internet was a completely different animal, like impossible, nearly impossible to surmount entirely yourself, I would imagine. But what was the learning curve like?
Okay, so now doing a polar alignment was really, really difficult.
That I can believe.
Yeah, absolutely. If you wanted to do a good polar alignment, when I got started, the best way to do it was to use PhD and do a drift alignment.
Drift align, yep. Still popular to this day.
Still popular, and you can still get a really great alignment on it, but it takes forever.
30 minutes?
30 minutes?
At least.
Wow.
Because you're tracking a single star, and you're seeing it drift away from where it's expected
you
to
got to
be.
wait for it to move.
And then you make an
and you're
adjustment.
right by the...
And so what you have to do is you let it drift.
Mm-hmm.
And once you see that it's drifting solidly in one direction, then you make a small tweak to your mount.
And then you wait another 5 minutes.
And then you wait another 5-10 minutes.
Oh, man.
So you couldn't, like you didn't identify Polaris and then just sync up with that.
I mean, that's where you would start.
Yeah,
You'd start with
It'd be rough. It'd be
rough
getting
alignment.
It would be
getting
good
it
for
really
visual.
close to Polaris.
You'd be
That'd be
lucky
fine
to
for
get
visual.
within 10 minutes, I would imagine, right?
And
Nowhere
damn
near where it
lucky.
needs to be
Yeah,
for astrophotography, even at that age, at that era.
Did you guys have on the mounts themselves, did they have like a view piece that you could look through the center of the mount where it could...
You took a cap off and you looked through the bottom and then you'd I don't see anything.
like the built-in polar scopes.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Right, right.
Kill your needs.
Is that the North Star? I don't even know.
They make mounts now that don't even have it's not even a
The
think about it.
The AM5
Yeah, they
have
have the most popular mount that there is right now in astrophotography does not even have one.
Because they're designed
not to need it.
Yeah.
Clean sheet for electronic polar alignment.
for today.
And I don't think astrophotography and astronomy in general would be having the boom that it's having today if we did not. I know we wouldn't have it without the technological advances because people are not patient enough to do 30 minutes on a polar alignment. They're just not.
I was.
Has anyone ever talked to you about how they used to do it? Because me and Rick, even though we're been around a while,
and
the old timers at this club will tell you how they used to do it.
And
With
you guys
film.
know?
With film?
Because you'd have to do, if you wanted to do astrophotography before digital cameras were a big thing, you did it with film. Well, you can't
Single frame.
sit there and use PhD to look at your film and see how far you're drifting.
There's no connection to the computer.
Right.
From the camera.
Did you do it with an eyepiece first?
And so you had to sit there with an eyepiece and
a hand controller.
And your eyepiece and your eye in the eyepiece the entire time you're imaging, doing your guiding. Hitting the buttons.
Wow.
Hitting the buttons.
Up, down, left, right, up, down, left, right, constantly until the exposure was complete.
Yep.
And those are bulb exposures back then. So you'd have to have another hand on the little bulb set. You'd lock it down.
Yep.
You just got... Anyone who's done film, there's these little... They look like syringes almost on a flexible cable.
Yeah. Yep.
And there was a little knob to
twist.
You push it in like
the air pressure.
Oh, are you talking about for the original bulb? It's like old school intervalometer.
A bulb exposure because it had a little rubber bulb on the end of it,
and it would open up.
Wow, I had no idea.
But then you'd lock it down.
So how would you view the film on site? Would you just look at the negatives?
No.
You wouldn't know until
you would look. That's where single reflux lens.
Yes.
Right.
Single lens
reflect. Single lens reflect. Reflect. So you would focus through that diagonal, through the eyepiece, the best you could. There was no digital help with that.
Yeah, no mirrorless, nothing. Forget
about it.
And
then you would once that shutter opens, it blocks the eyepiece.
Yeah.
Because it swings up. There's no diagonal in there anymore. That goes up out of the way. The film starts accepting photons, and then you're over here on this side eyepiece on a guide scope.
Yep.
They
quote
had 'em-
unquote.
they had 'em.
Oh man.
Air quote
But the
marks,
guy
sky
scope had it would have an illuminated reticle
Yep,
with a like a crosshair and a and
like
you-
a polar clock, and
just like you see here on
Yeah.
it's digital representation of that. And then you'd be in the eyepiece, and then in your right or left hand, you'd be going left, right, up, down, left,
That's
up, down.
Holy
crazy.
cow.
And
How
then,
were
you'd
the
have to decide
exposures?
when you wanted to shut off the bulb. So then you'd reach down or
and
reach
press
up,
it.
and then unscrew the little
So
dolly.
what-
To let the
was-
air pressure.
What's
And then it
common
would-
exposure
and then it would
time
close
then?
the-
30
and-
seconds would be incredible, right?
Yeah.
Like,
Well, I mean, you could do several minutes that way if you were patient.
really?
If you were
Huh.
good,
If
and
you were
had-
good,
and-
yeah,
and-
you'd have to get good.
and your mount was decent for the era. And
Yeah.
It wasn't
Yeah,
bouncing around everywhere. You
Yeah.
gotta remember gear lash.
Or
Ricky knows about that.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I was at like 6 seconds in guiding, and I was like, Jeff, what is going on, man? And he was like, have you tuned your mount yet? I was like, I don't even know what that means.
Well, see, but this is the ASI era, right?
Right.
Yeah.
They keep
Oh,
putting
yeah.
these little devices down. You got other companies like StellarMate that
Right,
were
right.
forebearers of that technology. But all these little tiny devices that are being plucked out of other industries and being brought into astronomy
Uh-huh.
allow for
Yep.
these much easier applications of the same exact
Yeah,
problem. You're
yeah.
still solving the problem of keeping the scope in the same spot,
Right,
Yeah,
right.
but you're no longer having to do it with your eye and your.
or just think
Thumb.
about it before you even had electronic mounts.
Oh yeah,
Right.
you had to do the
Yeah,
hand
I would
screws,
do
so
it
right?
the first telescope I ever bought was a
So-
manual alt-az.
And so
that
if all
had
you
to
had was a slow
adjust.
motion knob, then
This is similar to how they did barn door trackers, right?
No, that's a little
would you
different, right?
manually turn those?
no, you would have a small motor on a barn door tracker.
And
so
literally because of the type of hinge that is used on barn, because I know that I grew up on a farm,
Yeah,
and
hinge.
they open all the way up, so you can do right ascension with that.
Right.
Okay.
That's really all you can do with them.
Yep.
But
But
those were great.
what you could do though is you could mount a ball head on it, and then you could get anywhere in the sky.
Yeah,
Oh,
just
yeah.
like kind of like a Star Tracker.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
That's what I
just
was
like a
thinking,
Star
too.
Tracker.
Yep.
One of those.
Gotcha.
So you put that on there, your camera lens go on top
Good
of
ball
it.
head, absolute
Yep.
must.
Yeah.
Still to this day.
I know.
Yeah,
I
you-
love my ball.
You gotta spend a little bit of money and get a good ball head. I'm a firm believer in that.
But now, so the digital camera, right, comes out.
What, 99?
I remember my wife coming home
when they
with a
started
little
getting
for
popular.
that,
I remember my wife having this little Kodak point and shoot.
Yeah, like
I had a
0.7 megapixels,
I had
right?
I had a 2 megapixel Kodak
Yeah.
in 2004.
That's about when I did too.
So-
You could go get them in a blister pack at Best Buy,
Yeah.
and they'd be like a 2 megapixel, and they'd come with like a 128 megabyte SD
No,
card.
digital SLRs were out at that point.
Oh, yeah.
Thousands and thousands.
Oh yeah,
They were as expensive then for a consumer level DSLR as astronomy cameras are now.
yeah, oh yeah,
You know?
easily. I mean, easily, right? Because even astronomy cameras have come down in price
Absolutely.
significantly
Mhm,
with
yeah.
the advent of CMOS sensors being so widely available.
We were talking about that earlier.
Yeah, we were.
Because in that box right there is a CCD. Pull it out. We're talking about cameras.
Yeah, CCDs.
Different technology.
That they were extremely popular before our current boom.
Mm-hmm.
It was the tech that everyone used, right?
Look at that little guy.
Absolutely.
That was state of the art. 2009.
ATIC. So you can still buy ATIC cameras
still
to this
around.
day.
Oh, yeah,
They
yeah.
do still make them. They're not
They
as
merged
popular.
With, they merged with CSI, an American company.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
So what is the primary difference between a CMOS and a CCD
It's
sensor?
the way it reads out and the way the pixels are designed.
Yeah,
Okay.
It's a completely different technology.
Okay.
It uses the photovoltaic effect, but
Yeah. When it comes to these, and I am by no means an expert on sensors.
Yeah.
You probably do better looking up the Wikipedia page on CMOS versus CCD.
Yeah.
But, listening to anything that I'm going to tell you. But
how
in
small
general,
that sensor is.
a CCD is going to give you a truer representation of the photons that hit.
Versus full frame.
Oh, that's cool.
And to this day,
Right. And-
pros, like university grade, they still will use
And
CCD
for
most of the
scientific
time, right?
purposes,
Yeah.
CCDs are still quite popular. Now, that doesn't mean that CMOS sensors aren't popular. I believe one of the cameras on the James Webb is a CMOS.
Oh, that's cool.
And so, you can do real science with a CMOS sensor as well. There are some benefits to a CCD because of the way that it works. You can actually combine multiple pixels on a CCD into one larger pixels.
So like binning.
Hardware
Essentially,
binning,
right? Yeah.
Hardware binning.
But hardware binning. Okay.
It is true hardware binning.
Okay.
Whereas CMOS, you can't do true hardware binning.
Yeah,
It's all
it's all
software,
done
yeah.
in software because you can't
Yeah.
Because the way the sensor reads out
the bear
each-
pattern, etc. Right?
Yes.
Even
It's
if you
all
have a
individual.
mono.
You can't.
Even if you have a
Yeah.
mono,
Okay.
you can't do true hardware binning in a CMOS sensor. It's just the nature of the technology itself. And so, because of that, when I always tell people, like, the only reason to do, binning on your camera with a CMOS is if you want smaller files.
and
Otherwise,
there's a need for that in some cases.
yeah, otherwise, leave it at bin 1 and, rescale it in software at the end
In processing.
because
Right.
the algorithm that you can use in PixInsight or Cyril or any of these other Astro imaging suites is going to be better and give you a higher quality result than the software binning that they
of
do
course.
on the hardware of a CMOS camera. You've got more options.
Speaking of
using
smaller,
PixInsight, so.
So for the listeners, we were just passing around two separate cameras from two separate eras.
yep,
An ASI full frame, CMOS.
same full frame size as your typical like today's
DSLR,
mirrorless
yeah.
cameras.
Yeah.
It's what you want ideally. That's what most people would strive for is a full frame.
With a Sony sensor.
Yep,
Okay. And a previous era CCD with a Sony sensor.
which is crazy. I mean, it's like what,
six
micro
of
four
those.
thirds.
This
I
is-
mean, like
this
it's
is a-
like 8 of them. Honestly, when
Yeah.
you turn it up on its side, it's about 8 times larger. The full frame is.
It's massive. And these aren't even big cameras.
Yeah, no.
In the realm of,
Yeah, you got
They're-
medium
They're not
amateur.
medium format. They're not large format.
they make these look like this.
Yeah. Oh yeah, for
Right.
sure.
But it's a 12 millimeter diagonal versus
30, 35 millimeter. Yeah, because
Yeah,
it's based on full frame is based on a 35 millimeter
Right,
film camera,
which is based on the 35 millimeter film
Yep.
used in that
Yeah.
super.
early astrophotography, astrophotographers
Yep.
camera,
Yep.
who was looking through an eyepiece on a second scope next to his main scope, and he was using a hand controller to try to keep a star in the middle.
And think about this: whenever we talk about, there's so many terms that we use today in astrophotography that actually come from the film era.
Oh yeah,
that we don't think
and
about.
before
Yeah.
the film era.
And so think about stacking.
Mm-hmm.
You know where that
Stacking
comes from?
exposures.
Yeah.
Like
Wait, could you do that on film?
You would actually
Mm-hmm.
take the negatives, stack them on top of each
No
other,
way.
and develop
align them individually, right? Shine another light through them,
and expose
and
another
expose
exposure.
that,
to
and that
the-
gives you a true average
Yep.
of all of those.
Oh my
stacked
god,
That's
negatives.
crazy. That's
that is so nuts! I never
Yeah.
realized that.
And so we have all these terms that we still use today that come from this older era.
Wow.
And, it's like, it's like looking at a floppy disk icon for saving,
yep.
right?
People don't know. People don't even know what a floppy disk is these days, but
yeah.
we know
And,
what a save icon is,
you know
right?
what a save icon
Yep.
is, yeah.
Taking it even further back,
The
plate solving, of course,
Yep.
comes from the
glass plates.
literal glass plates that were used.
I did not know about this.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so before
Explain.
we
Yeah.
even had typical access to film camera, we wanted to be able to find objects in the night sky.
Very quickly.
And
Make
the
sure
way
you were-
that you do it is you'd go out to somewhere like Hawaii. Was it the Keck? Yeah, Keck in Hawaii. They have these huge telescopes, and they have these very fine, thin pieces of glass, extremely delicate, easy to break, and they've got a chemical layer on them that reacts with light.
Okay.
And when they would put them under the sensor, quote unquote, of the telescope, so the
At the
eyepiece,
focal point.
the focal point. There you go, the focal point. It would literally cause the chemical to react, and then you would have a visual representation of the stars on the plate of glass. And then when you needed to find where a star was, you would solve by looking for that plate. Hence the name.
Plate solve.
Whoa! So you would align the telescope again to match when it reflected back on that plate. You would use that plate to say, "Hey, I'm in the exact same spot I was
Exactly.
before." Dude, that's crazy.
Yeah.
I did
Yeah.
not. That is nuts.
Look, our forebears in this hobby
They're
were
geniuses.
really smart.
Yeah, they were. You feel smart when you name 5 or 6 stars for friends, but the people that came before us, mind blowing. When you think about what Galileo was able to do with his 1-inch homemade scope,
Yeah.
finding the moons of
and then
the
realizing
Galilean satellites,
and realizing
what it was.
that those little 4 dots moving that kept changing position every night
We're moons,
we're actually orbiting it. I mean, you're looking at a 2D representation of an orbit, edge on, and figuring out that those things are actually spinning around it in 3 dimensions.
In a world where it was heresy,
right?
to say that we revolved around the sun, like figuring out ellipticals, like absolutely mind blowing, and it really makes you appreciate the hobby. That's for sure.
Yeah, didn't he he was able to calculate where every planet would be for like an entire year, right? Like he was able to say, I know where this star, because they would call it a star, they didn't know it was another planet. I know where this star is going to be in like whatever,
I believe that was Copernicus that did that.
Oh, that's what. Oh, yeah.
And he did the
helical model.
If I remember correctly, it's been a long time since I've
studied
this. So, I may be completely wrong on this, but yeah, I think it was Copernicus that did that for the first time.
Okay.
And was able to
Galileo, Copernicus, they're old dudes.
They could tell the brighter stars didn't twinkle, and they wandered across the night sky. Hence the Latin name planetas means wanderers.
Greek.
Yeah, Greek. There you go. And it means wanderers because they would wander across the night sky.
It's so cool.
Imagine if he had an AM5 and a nice ASCAR V behind it,
Right.
Full frame sensor.
Full frame, with little...
I used to have this weird vision or dream or whatever. Like, man, I would love to be able to just take my gear and time travel back to the 1500s.
Yep.
Here in this exact spot, and like somehow be able to like carry the battery power with me. But imagine the stars they could see back then. Like they could. I mean, the Milky Way was probably so bright. You didn't need a moon.
Get that today.
You didn't need the moon.
If you go to the right place.
You can get that today if you go to the right place.
Yeah.
There are places that you can go where you can look up and the Jupiter will leave a spot in your vision. The Milky Way will cast faint shadows.
I've heard of that. Seeing zodiacal. I've seen zodiacal light, but you don't need the darkest of dark skies to see zodiacal light. For the Milky Way to cast a shadow, though, buddy.
I mean,
you got to be somewhere special for that.
No moon at all.
Yeah.
Right. There's no man-made illumination around you, and yet you can still see around you because your eyes have adapted to the dark so well. Our eyes are sensitive enough that when we're truly dark adapted, you can actually see a single photon. That's how sensitive our eyes are.
Wow.
Most of the time, we're never in a situation.
Where our eyes are truly adapted.
How do I get a USB cable into that?
No, seriously though.
But you can't do long exposure though. That's the problem.
I can't stack.
Burn up your retina.
I mean, really though. Like, how far off do you think we are before you can do 10-second exposures? And we got the binoculars, right? Have you guys seen the AR binoculars that are coming out? Nikon and one of the big astronomy companies have paired together.
Oh, nice.
And literally look through the binoculars. It immediately plate solves and will paint DSOs,
nice.
All the different constellations,
I think
stars.
I think it'd be a killer app for the Apple VR headset. The Apple Vision to be able to look up at the night sky with a camera feed directly from the telescope that you got next to you and live stack it.
Man.
I think that'd be a killer thing.
I got all kinds of thoughts around that, but I'm not going to crack it open now. Yeah. But guys, tell me what you guys have been up to lately with Dark Dragons, because it's been so long since we've talked about it.
Absolutely.
Hang on just a moment. Let me just All right, we are back. Sorry about the little break there for a moment. We just we wanted to head outside for a few minutes and get a look at these incredible skies that we have. So if you
look at Orion,
oh man, it's next level out here. Line. So technically speaking, I guess if you look it up on lightpollution.map, it's a 4, but
we're a 4, 3, 4, 5.
On a good night, it's a 3 easily, because you can see the Milky Way so well out here. It's just gorgeous.
There's not a lot of humidity because we're not getting as much light dome from Charlotte right now.
Yep. I can see that.
You'll get a little bit of light dome from the gold mine down here.
Really?
South.
Yeah. There's a gold mine with that much light?
We are in the middle of gold mine country. All the property around here is owned by the gold mine, and it's put in reserve because of what they're doing down there.
Really?
Open strip mining. They have to set aside like a 10, I don't know what it is legally, but there's like a multiplier.
Really?
They set aside. So all this around us is protected for dark. So we're never going to get a subdivision right here.
I love
Now, there
that.
might be a subdivision 4 miles up the road, which would still cause light pollution.
Yeah, it would suck, but we're pretty far out here. Just so you guys know, coming from my home, which is in a little suburb just outside of Charlotte, North Carolina, it takes about an hour driving pretty much directly south to get here.
Me too.
A little town called Kershaw.
Ricky's got the long ride.
You know, aren't we really closer to like, is it Taxahaw?
Yeah.
Yeah, because it says Kershaw on the map, but then when you look and zoom
Kershaw's
out,
right over
yeah,
that way.
Kershaw's actually a little town,
That way.
a little way down. But anyway.
So it's late November, and Orion is just at the right time for just people that step outside and look. So if you're at home this time of year, step outside, find north.
Oh, you have to.
And then look to the southeast, right?
Just after, 10 o'clock at night, I'd say is good.
It's about that's about a 45-degree arm angle.
Yep.
I'm pointing at it. And you should be able to see that from anywhere. Even most light polluted areas, you can see Orion, at least those 3 stars.
All right, without naming them, how many stars do you guys know in Orion? I'm looking, I know 1,
Betelgeuse.
2,
Yeah, that's the only one I know.
3, 4, 5,
Betelgeuse.
6, 7.
I'm not going to say it a third time.
You better not.
You better not, dude.
It's a good movie.
I don't
by
want
the way.
Sandworm. Oh, the second one, it was good, but too many subplots going on, man. Give me more Michael Keaton and maybe a little less of his crazy ex-wife coming after him or whatever. But all things considered, it was very good, and I think the writers did that strategically because I don't know if they felt that they could necessarily get a full 2-hour performance out of him. You know what I mean? I don't know. I'm just guessing at it because otherwise I couldn't imagine as many subplots. But anyway,
I was in a really good mood the day that we saw that.
Yep.
So it was maybe extra special for me.
I can appreciate
I just
that.
dropped my daughter off at college a month prior.
Nice.
Up in Asheville, which has this whole other story.
Yes, it is.
But the week before the hurricane hit that town was Parents' Weekend. Me and my wife went up there, and we were doing some stuff, and we went around some things, and then we had this whole afternoon with nothing. So we went and saw Beetlejuice
Yep.
2, and so that's why.
And undoubtedly, there's going to be a third. There has to be, right?
I don't know because he's not a guy that makes that kind of sequel.
Yeah.
He's not a Toy Story guy.
Tim
Toy Story
Burton.
5. Yeah.
My wife's favorite director of all time, without a doubt, Tim Burton. I mean, I can't tell you how many times I've walked into Edward Scissorhands. So
you're a movie guy.
Oh yeah, I love film.
Oh, so
Yep.
just look out for Easter eggs because half of what I say comes from movies.
Okay.
I'm a
Look, so
huge movie buff.
FYI, I am a Simpsons dictionary. So like, if you're talking like seasons 1 through 15, I will throw out references constantly.
Okay.
And in the right crowd. You know what I mean?
So back in college,
Uh huh.
we had VCRs.
Oh yeah, I had a VCR. That's what we take Dragon Ball.
Well, we didn't have. There was no digital video recorder.
Yep.
There was no digital cable. We had, if you wanted to time shift some programs, you recorded them on VHS. The Tracy Ullman Show on Fox
That's where the
came
Simpsons were
out
born.
while we were in college.
Yep.
I recorded all 6 episodes. It was a very short run. I
Yep.
don't know how many there were.
I think it was about that.
But
But it was like 4 to 6.
That's
something
where
like,
the Simpsons, they were
Yep.
they were cutaways for the commercial
Yep.
breaks. And I remember watching that first run. That's how.
And you just knew it was going to be special, right?
So that would have had to been. So when did the Simpsons start?
89 officially.
So they would have started in '88 then.
Yep,
It would have been
on Tracy Ullman, for
they,
sure.
They went to series right away.
Yeah, well, they did a Christmas special, and that was when they got Santa's Little Helper, which is their dog. And that was so popular that I think Fox immediately bought 4 seasons, if I'm not mistaken. It might have been after the first season, but the Christmas special was super popular. The Ullman, it rolled into a snowball.
So the one for me was when they sold the TV.
Uh-huh.
And he went straight to the psychiatrist. Okay, this was what locked me in on that show. This exact scene.
Electric
and
therapy.
they go in there, and it was the TV commercial guy, right?
Yeah.
Like, and if I can't fix your family,
Marvin
problem,
Monroe.
Marvin,
Dr. Marvin
it's
Monroe.
free.
Yep.
Well, they went in there. They went through like 8 levels of
electroshock therapy.
That didn't even work. Was it during the electroshock when they realized? No, they had
the buzzers. Yeah.
No,
right?
the bats with the foam on them.
Oh yeah. That was earlier. Yep.
When
they're beating the hell out of each other.
Bart says, "Look, this slides right off," and then they start hitting them. So it's really what they're doing is they're having a wiffle ball bat fight at that point.
Yep.
And that just took me back to 1978. Right. It was hilarious. That locked me in.
I love it.
The writing on that.
Oh, it's so good.
In recent years, Ricky, I don't know if you're one of these guys, but Family Guy has overtaken.
I'm not a big Family Guy fan.
I watched it a little bit in college, and then I was like, eh.
Same for me.
You know what? You know what it is? You guys are millennials, right? Technically.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, I consider myself late Gen X.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's what I do too.
Yeah, I mean, we're a weird generation.
Yeah,
37 to 42.
Were you into grunge?
43? Oh yeah, for sure, dude. Nirvana? Are you kidding me?
Like first heard the Nirvana song.
Oh God, I was in 6th grade.
Do you remember that though? Like
oh yeah. I remember having the Nevermind tape and showing it to friends and feeling like I was the shit.
At what
age?
Of it.
Oh God, 11, I want to say.
You were the shit.
Yeah.
Did you have flannel?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Okay. Flannel. I'm wearing Jinkos right now, dude.
Like
these
Jinkos?
Are literal Jinkos.
I remember going to school and being like, Mom, Dad, I gotta get some Jinkos.
Yeah, they were so expensive though, right?
So like my parents took me to what was it? It was either Belk or J.C. Penney. One of those, but they sold Jinkos. And I was like, Dad, these are the ones.
They had them.
And they were not the woolly mammoths. You know,
but like the reason. Oh yeah, the huge ones. I had some of those, but
like a blanket.
I preferred the pipes, the 23-inch kind of. Yeah.
Break it down into
people would climb into your pants.
Exactly.
There's enough cloth in this
thing. You could build a house.
They would literally
for years.
Yes, exactly.
And so, in case you're a younger person, the jeans we're referring to, they had huge wide leg openings, and they're actually coming back into style now. Every time I see somebody wearing Jinko adjacent clothing, which by the way, Jinko's still around.
I know, I've seen it.
Yep, they're on. That's where I got these. This is a newer pair, but they're just as good as the old ones. But anyway, it's coming back into style now. But like these huge wide leg pants where people would have like 40, 50-inch openings.
Yeah.
People could literally climb inside your pants leg, like legit.
Guys. They were basically men dresses.
Yeah. I mean, yes. And Alice in Chains was making that quite popular at the time. So, Chili Peppers, Alice in Chains.
Nothing wrong with being comfortable.
Not at all. Not at all. Yeah, all right, let's head in and warm up. We'll be right back, guys. Welcome back to the Astrocast. I'm your host, Drew, and special episode tonight, hanging out down at the Gale Rigsby Observatory. And once again, we are joined by Jeff and Rick from Dark Dragons Astronomy and our fellow astrophotographer, Ricky. Welcome back, guys. Thanks for having me into your humble abode here. We're actually standing in Rick and Jeff's observatory right now.
Yes.
And
full view of the sky.
Beautiful view. This is not one of those domes that gives you a slit view, but you get the actual real true sky view here. And I just wanted to ask you guys about your gear, your mounts. They're freaking gorgeous.
Yeah, absolutely. So I've got on my pier over here a Ioptron CEM 120.
120.
Great mount. I've loved it. I've had it for years now. And I've got a 4-inch triplet. A
4-inch triplet. That's awesome.
Yeah, it's a Thomas Beck TMB 100 800
Yeah,
it's a F8. Absolutely beautiful, and
Soviet era optics.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's
it's got the Russian optics on it. You know, it's a wonderful telescope, and then I've got a the ASI 2600 camera on it.
Yep.
And with the 2-inch filters. And
the mono or the color that
it's the mono on this one,
because you have one of each, right?
I do. I've got a one-shot color as well.
Nice.
Same sensor.
Same sensor, but I just use that as my. I use the one-shot color normally as my travel camera.
Okay,
because
that makes sense. Then you don't gotta expose as much.
Filter wheel.
Yep.
And so makes it easier to do that way. And we're inside our building here that has our roll-off roof, and then Jeff's got his rig right next to it. So.
Well, Rick, yours looks like it's about to flip. When do you flip that?
Yeah, so that's handled by my imaging software. I use K-Stars. Big fan of Linux and open source. And
Absolutely.
And so, it's going to handle my Meridian flip for me here in about 30 minutes. We've got to do that because, as the objects move across the sky, we have to get to a point where the telescope's going to be pointing straight up and then...
to the zenith, which is the highest point in the night sky.
Yeah, and then it's going to kind of keep going past that.
Yep.
Well, if it tries to keep going, it's going to run into the pier.
That's dangerous.
And so it does a complete flip and starts imaging from the other side of the pier.
And then walks back down.
And then it walks all the way back down until it sets in the west. So.
And when you're up at the zenith, that's your, generally speaking, darkest point of your night sky, right?
So you're going to get your best chance for imaging.
Yeah.
And that's because you're dealing with a lot less atmosphere.
Yeah.
When you go straight up through the atmosphere,
shortest distance
you've got
between 2 points.
Yep. Yeah, you've got a couple 100 miles of atmosphere that way. When you're pointing towards the horizon, you've got
Orion right now.
It could be 1,000 easily.
Yeah, you could have thousands of miles of atmosphere that you're pointing through. So
it's funny. You never think about it like that, but absolutely, and you have more chances for high clouds at multiple layers.
That's right,
going diagonally. So there's just a whole multitude of reasons why you want to. Obviously you don't always get to, but why you appreciate the zenith imaging when you get close to it. So
absolutely, I'm imaging NGC 1333 tonight, and right now it is almost exactly at zenith. So
we might see a flip soon.
Tell me about that object real quick, because I had never actually seen it before you showed it to me tonight. You said it's got a combination of what?
Inside? Yeah, so it's nice because it's got a reflection nebula in it. It's got an emission nebula in it. It's got a wonderful little hydrogen alpha area. And it's a great
triple threat.
It's a great target to do RGB. It's a great target to do some narrowband.
So kind of similar to like RO, right?
But
in a way,
in a way, it's very similar to that. The for what I'm doing on it is a HA, and then also doing luminance and RGB.
Beautiful.
So,
Jeff.
Sorry guys, I was pointing at Pleiades, which is almost at zenith.
Oh yeah, the Pleiades is a beautiful asterism
too.
Yeah,
like it's actually
it is.
Jupiter
it's
and Mars.
Very very close. Yeah. Absolutely.
It's gorgeous night tonight, guys. So glad you can make it.
Yeah.
This is
so you want to talk about my rig?
Yeah, I wanted to ask you what do you have?
Well, first of all, I want to talk about both of the piers themselves, because these are both homemade piers.
They're custom piers that they made inside the building, and you know what? I'll get you guys to send me a photo during daylight hours, and I can attach it to the show notes just in case anyone's curious about what it looks like.
Right. So when we built the observatory, actually when we just poured the concrete pad, that was the first thing we built were those two piers. That was the beginning
you pour
of
the piers at the same time that you poured the pad? You kind of had to, right?
Those are steel.
Oh, okay.
Both of these are steel, and we use anchors into the concrete.
Yep.
So we've at this focal length that we're running here, we've never had a problem with it.
Oh, I'm sure you have.
Some people
they look
that build
rock solid.
Some people that build observatories go nuts, and they'll put 5 truckloads of cement for a pier isolation system.
I've seen that.
We've been when we first did this, Rick and I would be jumping around near our scope and watching the guide graph to see if we were affected. It didn't. Did it, Rick?
Didn't budge anything.
I mean, for context, they don't even need to use auto guiding and can get 15-minute exposures with very sharp stars.
With these rigs?
Yeah.
We need auto guiding.
Oh, okay. I apologize.
We both
I misspoke. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Never mind.
So Rick's is a much more modern mount than mine.
The CM 120.
Right. And that thing is rated for 120 pounds of equipment.
It's a beast.
Wow. And in this configuration, it's way underloaded.
Yeah, of course.
Which is
great.
advantageous
for
absolutely. Astrophotography, which is great.
Yep.
Plus the premium optics on that is...
That's not something you can go on High Point Scientific and buy.
You can't buy
that kind of telescope.
Period,
the
right?
CM 120, yes. The telescope, absolutely not.
Well,
I'll tell you what.
You can still get ABM still sells that telescope design.
With that glass though,
it doesn't come from the same factory anymore, but it is the same optical design.
Yep.
And it is still an exceptional telescope.
I guess what I'm getting at though is like your scope has such a cool story behind it, and that just makes it so unique.
You could have a whole episode on
for
that
sure
scope
on that
because
telescope
of the person that designed it.
Yep.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
That's worthy of a story. But now, so I've got an older EQ8, which is a now defunct Orion company, but it's the same as the Skywatcher EQ8.
Yep.
Oh yeah.
This is not the modern one that's currently available. It's the older original version.
So it's the prior gen EQ8.
They didn't even call it. They called it. It's not a Titan. What did they call the Atlas? And then this was the one above that. I can't remember the name of it. But I got that secondhand.
Okay.
In a story we'll talk about one day when we're talking about mounts specifically. But that it just fell in my lap.
Yeah, that's
I was
beautiful.
literally sitting right here.
The
on
best
the floor,
things always do.
And someone came in here and says, "I got an EQ8, and this is what I want for it." I'm like, "Oh my God, no! We just built this place. I can't buy that."
Right.
And at that point, Rick, you still had the CGM.
The CGX.
The CGX.
CGX is the
that's a nice mount.
It holds a lot of weight, right?
Yeah.
Versus the CGM, which is the lighter weight one, if I'm not mistaken.
I believe it was a 55-pound
Nice.
braided mount.
Yeah, which
Solid.
is still very, very
Now,
good.
It's a lugger, though, right?
Heavy
It was
beast.
heavy.
It's not for the faint of heart if you're going to do it. Set up and tear down type of
My back
imaging
couldn't
rig.
handle that for very long.
Yeah, so that's one of the huge things about modern mounts is how much weight has gone down, particularly like with the strained mounts that we're seeing now, which I don't know that I would put Strainwave without a counterweight in a permanent observatory, because I'm like, why not have the counterweight, right? Yeah. But when you need to travel and get up and go, like my CEM 26 that I'm running here tonight, it's so lightweight, it's nothing.
Well, it's the gear system in that Strainwave drive.
Yeah.
That because it's zero backlash.
Yeah.
Right. So the counterweight's there probably just to help the motor not to amp out so much, I would think. But so you got the EQ8, and then above that is that's an Astrotech.
Astrotech.
That's an Astrotech 102 ED. Double.
102 ET. So do we all have doubles?
That's a $400 telescope.
We do, don't we?
That's amazing.
Mine's a triplet.
Yours,
that's only
Mr.
$400.
Fancy Pants over here with the triplet.
But see, I do narrowband exclusively, so I don't need.
No. I love my doublet telescope. I cannot wait to one day, because I feel like my skill level has gotten to where I could go with a better scope and get more out of it at this point, if you know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
But I'm never going to get rid of that scope. I love it, and it, it is, it's great.
Never say never, because I just sold my Stellar View, which I thought I was never going to sell, but it was not getting used. I love this little 102 so much. So
we'll be right back, guys. We're just going to head inside before someone freezes out here. You're listening to the Astrocast. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the Astrocast, a special live edition here from Gail Rigsby. We are back with Jeff and Rick from Dark Dragons Astronomy, and our buddy Ricky's here as well. So I was just asking you guys, what has Dark Dragons been up to lately?
Yeah, so we've had a really interesting year. We've finalized our Dragon Lair roll-off roof system. That's a nice DC-powered observatory control system.
Very popular.
It's been great. It's been very popular.
You may have seen it featured on a very big YouTube channel. I remember smacking my leg when I saw it on Nebula photos. You guys got featured.
Yep, that was great for us. We've also got our flat panel system.
Yep.
The Dragon Light.
Yep.
And then our iOS app that'll turn your iPad into a flat panel that you can actually
Which is why I bought an iPad, because you guys don't have an Android version yet.
No.
I literally went out and spent $350 to buy your app.
And the app is not $350.
No, it's not. It's very affordable.
It's a $10 app. So if you already have an iPad, it's the cheapest flat light you can buy.
Yep.
And on that subject, I just wanted a quick sidebar.
Yeah.
Yep.
What I've learned is a lot of new astro imagers don't take flats.
Oh, it's so bad. You have to take flats.
That's the only one that matters.
It's 5 minutes.
Yeah.
It's so easy, and I think people they've either gotten it in their head that it's difficult. They think it's like technically difficult
or time
consuming when you're out at 4:00 in the morning and you're packing up your gear and you're like, oh, I don't want to take flats. But guys, if you don't, you're not getting the most out of your images. And God forbid you get dust spots and what have you. You can't get rid of it.
Dynamic background extraction will only do so much.
Absolutely.
When Rick and I were set up and tear down imagers, and we'd sit on that pad out there, and sometimes we'd tear down at 3 a.m. We always took time
to take
the flats.
You have to. I mean, it's absolutely crucial.
There was times where I didn't want to because like the equipment didn't work well that night, but I still had some data. Even if I had 5 frames for 10-minute exposures,
it's important.
I didn't want to lose almost an hour's worth of data,
right?
Even though the rest of the night was shot because some USB cable didn't work.
But you could still add that hour to another 6 hours later down the road if it's correctly calibrated.
Right. So always take flats. I don't care if you point them at the sky when it's getting dusk and do sky flats.
Yeah.
That's what I
do.
It's so easy.
Absolutely.
And some people who set their rigs up do not take the cameras off of their telescopes when they go home. If they take the whole thing off as an assembly and don't
rotate.
Don't move that focuser.
Yep.
Leave it right where it was.
Yep.
Then you can take flats the next day.
You can.
When
you
you're a little more
I do that at home all the time. I will literally, when I'm using my GTI mount, my small mount with the 135 rig on it, I'll pick up the whole thing, walk it inside, go to sleep, and then the next morning I'll take my flats. And as long as, nothing's happened in between them, which I'm very careful not to, then it's no problem.
It's so cool. So, like, when you guys were talking about, like, sky flats, that's what I do. So I set up my camera, and I started doing this last time I was here. I take my shot for the night. So tonight I'm imaging Orion. And then what I'll do is I'll set it to go to home, and home is pointing at Polaris. And then I wait. I have a delay until 8 a.m. I'm not awake at 8 a.m. because I just stayed up till 4 a.m.
That's smart.
And then Otto does the flats. I don't do anything.
Ricky, you camp. You like to camp.
Yeah, I do.
So he'll bring that tent, and then he's got his rig set up. You're within Wi-Fi distance to it, right?
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, it's amazing. I can see it from there.
Curiosity question on astrophotography camping. Can you build a fire relatively close, or does it ruin your imaging ability? Do you not even think about fire when you're out?
Well, so I mostly camp in places where you can't build a fire.
Okay.
It's just because there's fire hazards everywhere.
Okay, that makes sense.
So usually I'm keeping warm by clothing.
Okay. So good sleeping bags, good thermal gear, etc.
I have like a $500
zero rated.
Yeah. It's
never buy a sleeping bag less than zero rated.
Yeah.
Zero.
Okay. So speaking of, I was actually in the market the other day. I was on Amazon of all places. And I've heard some nightmare stories about the cheap bags on Amazon. They are not zero, even though they say they're zero rated. They're not.
Okay, we're going to want a sidebar on camping equipment.
Okay.
REI.
No.
So you don't like REI?
No, I like REI, but there are better companies out there.
Really?
So Durston is an amazing guy. He does a lot of offside camping equipment.
Are they expensive?
Yes. So they're very expensive, but they're the only bag you'll ever have to buy.
Buy once, cry once.
Yeah. So my down bag, it's a Zimbibwe. It's not from Durston, but it's a Zimbibwe, and it weighs about 0.8 pounds.
Wow, that's nothing.
I can pack it down to, it's a diameter of about 8 inches in diameter and about maybe 6 inches tall, and it's negative 30 degrees.
How cold have you taken that bag?
I've taken it down to 0.
Wow.
So, and I was sweating. No joke, I was sweating. Because
I have to take my...
It's so warm.
I was a scout dad.
I was a scout kid, but I wasn't in the scouts. Different story.
My son was in the scouts.
Yep.
So I got voluntold. So I collected the camping gear for that kind of stuff.
Yep.
And it took me a long time to realize, take the socks off.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, when you're in the sleeping bag?
Yeah,
man.
Let your body heat do its thing.
Yeah, exactly.
You think, it's cold out tonight. I'm going to keep my socks up. No.
Yeah.
My feet were always cold when I did that.
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah. No, I just used my mummy bag that I got from the Army. And,
Nice.
It keeps me nice and warm. So, yeah.
Were you in the Army? Cool.
Yeah.
I was in the Air Force, man. That's awesome.
Yeah.
So now, if you're an astrophotographer and you need to stay warm, I'm going to give you one cheap tip. And it really depends on if you're a site that has
It's this one neat trick.
The only thing you got to do.
Sorry.
So,
if you've got access to power.
If you have a outlet like we do here at this club.
Yep.
There's 110 at the AC outlets.
Mains power, yep.
Right.
Yeah, so get yourself one of those little 0G chairs.
Okay, I have one, and I've actually
ones that give you a
recommended
little
everybody
thrill
buy
when
them.
you're in bed.
They're so nice. They're so nice for stargazing.
Wonderful
blanket?
And so what you do is you take an electric blanket.
Yep.
And you put it down on the chair.
$12, $15
right.
from.
Then you sit down on the chair and you grab another blanket and put it over top of you.
You guys were on the same level. I literally have done this.
And that right there, the heat from that electric blanket comes up and it reflects back down on you, and it is so nice and keep you nice and toasty warm. I mean, if you're up, in the Upper Peninsula in Michigan, it's probably not going to do it.
Yeah, but for a North Carolina chilly night, South Carolina chilly night,
or if you're doing what Ricky does, which is backpack into places and do astrophotography with a mini rig, right?
Yeah. Right. Yeah. So I usually I'm not doing like deep sky stuff at that point. Like I
would
have to take
do
something.
wide field,
You're doing wide field Milky Way.
Yeah. So I take my Nikon and
like an awesome foreground somewhere.
Right.
Do you do the light flashing thing? Where you like flash?
I love light painting. It's so much fun.
Light painting is fun.
It's so much fun. So one of my favorite shots is I went up to Grandfather Mountain and we were camping off of the Nawadi Trail. And
what is
I hiked Nawadi.
Where at?
It's if you go on the Blue Ridge Parkway
in North Carolina.
In North Carolina,
so it's still in state.
Yeah. It's about 20 minutes before you reach Grandfather Mountain. The turnoff to go up to Grandfather Mountain. And you take the Boone Fork Trail, and you'll go up to the Nawadi. Well, if you get to the very top of the Nawadi Trail, because it comes off of the Tanawa, there's a Tanawa Trail that goes from like Price Lake to I can't remember where it ends, but you take it up to the Nawadi Trail all the way to the top, and there's like 7 trees up there, and that's it. And so you can see almost everything. And it is so great.
Are you horizon up there?
No, it's not quite a bald, but it's a short hike. I mean, you're talking 20 minutes with gear.
Oh, that's not bad. That's what you want.
It's a short hike. It's only 8 hours in.
Yeah, right.
Man, so the first time we ever did it,
cell phone service.
No,
you can spot
maybe depending on the carrier.
My friend's wife has AT&T or Verizon. I can't remember which one she has, but she gets service. I do not.
Yeah, up in the mountains, that's kind of how it is.
Yeah,
some do, some don't.
I mentioned that specifically for astrophotographers.
Yeah.
Because that is an interesting point. If you're really remote and you do not have a cloud connection.
Yeah.
Well, it can complicate some things if your equipment is not perfectly set up. You haven't tested it before you went out. You haven't downloaded all the drivers that the hardware you needed.
Yes. Well, so I don't. So I only run my camera with an intervalometer. Like I'm seriously.
Well, that's backpack light.
That's what I do. I take a star tracker. I don't take a mount.
Yeah.
But if someone were to take their equipment to the very, very dark remote,
if you want to do deep sky,
make sure you test your equipment.
Yes, set it up at home,
especially if you got something new. Test it in the backyard, even
without internet. Turn off your Wi-Fi.
As you're breaking down the gear, literally pack it up from there.
Right.
And then grab a couple of extra of every cable. I did this when we go on our dark sky trip out to the coast every year in June. And it's dark skies out there.
On the island.
Yeah. And but there's notoriously bad cell phone service.
Yeah.
You can use an ASI or it will plate solve for you.
Yeah.
No problem. But there are still things that you have to factor in. You got to think about, and having backup parts is one of them.
Yeah.
You're doing 2 things, and neither of them are easy. You're backpacking, which means you're carrying everything in and out.
Yeah. Yep.
And you're doing astrophotography.
Yes.
Yeah. So
and then you add the complexity of both of those together. It's even more complex.
What is the phrase that you love to use, Rick, in regards to cost?
Oh yes. Yeah. So. One of the things I always tell people is if you like having disposable income, don't get into astrophotography because it combines all of the cost of astronomy with all of the cost of photography.
That's exactly right.
Which are already very expensive hobbies.
It's crazy too because it's more so, right? Like you can get away when you do like visual, telescope, looking with your eyeballs. You can get away with a cheaper scope. You can't do that when you're trying to take a picture.
Tell that to Scott over here. He's got quite the setup. He's a visual observer at the club, and he has shown me some galaxies through his Dob that'll blow your mind. Completely different.
You've had late night galaxy hunting with Scott.
Yes,
that's rare air. That's rare air. One of my favorite things in the world. Scott is one of the nicest people I have ever met, and funny. Loves movies, does TV quotes. Me and him cut up so bad one night, and it was with a star party night.
Yep.
Someone out of the 24 actually said, "It'd be better if you weren't so loud." I mean, we were laughing so hard. That's a point I wanted to bring up. I'm glad it kind of organic. This chat we're having.
Yep.
is the same chat we have
all the time here.
Once a month,
yeah,
times
yeah.
a month.
Oh yeah.
When we're just hanging out.
We literally just, guys, we were hanging out, like we like, I'm not down here as often as I'd like to be, but every time I'm down here and you guys are here, we always get together and we talk, and that's why I was like, let's just pull out the phone and record it.
But what's important for people to know, any club that you join has that potential.
Yes. The like-minded individuals. I've met more friends in my, I guess this is my 3rd season at the club, than I'd met in the last 15 years.
Yeah.
Like, seriously. Like, people that I would actually call on, you know, in a pinch.
Yeah.
And that's there's something to be said for that, guys, because, you know, the older you get, the harder it is to meet people, let alone people that have the same hobbies that you do. That's what's so special about a club, because, you know, like, so many people, when I started, it was such a solo adventure for me. And don't get me wrong, I still love the solitude. Like, you'll catch me out in the middle of a field in the middle of nowhere, just like you're hiking, right?
Yeah.
I love
We've all
doing
done
that.
it.
I love doing that. But, you know, it's fun to get together and shoot the shit too, you know, occasionally.
Absolutely. Yeah, and for me, you know, it's you know, because I volunteer as the observatory director here as well, you know, it's so great to, you know, get people into this hobby.
Yes.
And to see people coming out here for the first time, they just got their telescope for a birthday or for Christmas or something like that, and they come out and they're wanting to set it up, and you know, being able to sit and chat with them and talk to them and see what they want to get out of it, or just, you know, new members that are coming in and they don't even have a telescope. And, you know, as the observatory director, one of the most common questions I get asked is, what telescope should I buy?
Yep.
And I always tell them, don't buy one. Like, you know, there's so many different ways to do astronomy, that learn what you want out of astronomy.
Oh my God!
Before you ever purchase a telescope.
Yeah, astrophotography is not the only way, guys. Not even close.
You know, you may
sketching constellations is like you could do that for decades and you wouldn't be close to perfection.
You know, you could do that. You could do, you know, some people like want to hunt, you know, double stars.
Yep.
You know, all night long. Some people want to look at you know, variable stars. Some people want to do asteroid hunting.
Just splitting doubles, right?
Some people,
it's so fun.
Yeah, some
visually.
people want to look at little faint fuzzies. Some people, you know, just want to look at planetary and, you know, solar system objects. You know, and all of those things require different types of telescopes and equipment.
And they're all expensive. Each one of them is expensive.
It's the number one question I see.
Good ones are.
I wanna see planets, nebula, and galaxies. What kind of scope should I buy? And three of them. That's
yeah, that's what you're gonna buy.
Yeah. Yep. So I mean, you know, and by joining a club, you get to try every single one of those telescopes, up to and including professional grade, and I mean like university grade, depending on your club, type equipment. It's not uncommon, guys.
Absolutely.
What I thought was interesting is I didn't know that, right? When I first started, I was like, I do want to do planets, and I do want to do nebulas, and I do want to do all of the things, right? Because I was just so interested in the hobby. And I started, like, going down the path. I started out with a Nikon 750.
Yep.
Actually, no. You know, my first camera was a Nikon D3300. Not a 3500, a 3300. It was old. It was a APS-C, and it was. I put it on I had a 300 millimeter zoom lens, and started off, and I went, and it was Thanksgiving night, actually, which is kind of funny because it's right around now. Yeah. And I went on the back porch. My family rented a cabin out in Tennessee, and I just took a picture, and I was like, how long can I take this exposure? You know, and so I tried to go longer, and then what I noticed was the stars were starting to move.
Yep.
And I was like, crap, well, how do I get rid of that? You know? And that is when it started. That is the exact moment it started. Because I was like, okay, cool, how are people getting rid of it? And I didn't know there were mounts and telescopes and all this stuff back then. I was just like, okay, this guy's using a star tracker. And so I went and found his star tracker, and it is tiny. I mean, the one that I'm using now is
which is it? Move, shoot, move. Move, shoot, move. Dude, yeah, I've talked about them on the show before. That's very, very, very cool. I like me personally. I love nothing more than the ultimate portable setup. It's something I'm still working on to this day. I want to get the highest possible quality image that I can from the smallest package I can find.
So I'm running 300 millimeters now on a full frame sensor with the move, shoot, move, and I have no problems. No star trails. I can do 5 minutes.
I love that. I love
5 minutes on that thing, which is crazy because at first I was doing it with the laser alignment, it's not good enough.
I've wondered about. I have a
millimeters.
green laser, and I thought about 3D printing. I actually did 3D print them out for a laser, but then I realized the diameter was completely off. So I need to go into CAD and adjust that. But have you guys ever done it? Have you done a laser alignment?
So the first time I did a laser alignment, I couldn't get above probably like 100-ish. We'll say 100-ish millimeters focal length. And after that, I couldn't do anything more than a minute.
So like if you're doing like 30-second exposures,
if you're doing 55
for 50 millimeter lens, something like that.
Oh man, you could do probably at least 3 minutes with a laser alignment.
Okay. Nice.
Just because your focal plane is so big.
Yeah.
You know, you don't have to worry about it.
Yeah.
That's.
I really want to get the whole. It's like you know when you look at the winter constellations, and to me it's almost like a painting because you know them all so well. It's you're in a coliseum and you're looking. I imagine that's how the ancients viewed them a lot of the times. But anyway, it's one of my dreams to get that perfect Barnard's loop shot.
I was gonna say,
of Orion. Like that's and you could get that from those mountainous trails. Man. I mean, heck, you could probably get it out here if you took your time and did it right.
Absolutely,
you sure could. It's just time.
Yep, it's all about the time. We're going to take a quick break, guys. We'll be right back. You are listening to the Astrocast. Welcome back to the Astrocast. I'm your host, Rue, and tonight we are at the Gale Rigsby Observatory, joined by founding members of Dark Dragons Astronomy and Ricky, and we're coming back. I want to talk to you, Rick, if you could tell me a little bit more about what Dark Dragons has been up to.
Yeah, so we have finalized our roll-off roof system, the Dragon Layer. And it's got some really great features that we think are really important to have for a redundant, roof system. One of those is that our all of our stuff runs off of 12 volts.
Yes,
which means that it's very easy to add backup power to your system by using a deep cycle battery.
Which is what you would want for an observatory because you have to have redundancy.
Absolutely, because if you lose power and your roof is open, you want to make sure you can still close.
And when would you lose power?
So, yeah.
It's a remote location. If you're
exactly.
in a good spot.
Oh, yeah.
You may not have power on site.
For any number of reasons. It, not necessarily a storm. It could be a brownout, right?
Well, you may not have AC power on site.
Yes. Oh, okay. Yeah.
So,
if you're in like a truly remote location.
Absolutely.
Our design allows for true off-grid observatories to be installed anywhere.
Yeah.
Now, you'll need one thing if you want to remotely control that observatory, and that's going to be some kind of an internet connection.
Yeah.
That could be a Yagi antenna at a cell tower on another hill.
Yep.
But most likely it'll be a satellite-based data,
which is both the bane of our existence and also it's the future. And as much as I hate it and the terror I feel for Kepler effect, I believe it's called.
Yeah.
It is the future. But tell me more about the roll-off roof system.
Yeah.
What kind of installs have you guys done?
Yeah, so we've done several different installations. From very, very small 6 foot by 6 foot observatories, all the way up to I think the biggest roll-off that we've done is 52 foot long and 24 foot wide Quonset hut.
Wow.
Where we actually moved the entire building off.
The whole building gets moved, not just the roof.
We moved the whole building about 70 feet with our system, and it opens and closes every night. And Jeff's pulling up a video right here to show you. This is a smaller one. This is a 36 by 24. But moving the whole thing with our Dragon Layer.
It's incredibly scalable,
and we're controlling it from a mobile app.
Yeah.
So if you go to our YouTube channel, Dark Dragons Astronomy, you can see the video we're watching right now. This is a 36 by 24 Quonset hut building. Anyone who knows what a Quonset hut is, it's like a mid-century industrial design building.
It's like a curved roof. It looks like half of a silo almost on the side.
It's a bunch of metal arches that are bolted together.
So it's cheap.
Yeah,
that's the idea.
It's cheap and easy to build.
You can transport it quickly, put it on site. The military used these all over the place.
Oh yeah,
They were popularized in MASH, if I'm not mistaken. They were all over the place in MASH, right?
You can see thousands and thousands of army barracks that are Quonset huts.
Okay, all right.
They were quite popular.
But in this situation, the owner of this facility, and you can see through video here, they put I-beams.
I'll link the video in the show notes, by the way, if you guys want to check it out.
And see the wheels?
Yep.
So the whole building is supported by those roller wheels.
And that's custom Dark Dragons hardware. And I want to speak on that for a second, because this isn't like you guys went out and found somebody. You guys have designed this from scratch.
Absolutely, yeah. We design the hardware. We design, the mechanical hardware, as well as the electronics, the software. We do all of that.
You write code yourself, right, Rick?
I do. I've been a software engineer for over 20 years.
Wow.
And I've been doing electronics design for even longer than that. And it's just something that I kind of grew up around. My dad was an electrical engineer.
Okay.
And
so it was in the family.
It was in the family.
Okay.
And so I was tell people that I built my first AM radio when I was about 6 years old.
That's awesome.
Little Heath radio kit,
crystal.
You learn how to it's basically just a learn how to solder kit.
Yeah.
But at the end of it, you've got a working AM radio.
Hey, and I just learned how to solder 6 months ago.
Yeah.
When I built my very first little 3D printed project that required a Raspberry Pi with headers. Absolutely. It was the first time I'd ever done it.
And Jeff's he's got decades of heavy industry experience. And does the mechanical design.
So the physics behind everything is the weight limits, etc. Like what did you design on the like the roll off roof system, for example?
The drive system. In this video, you see the Dragonlord Pro drive in the bottom right corner, and
so the actual drive system. I got you. Okay.
Yeah, so what we've done is we designed a system for our own use.
Okay.
It was just for us.
Yep.
And the neighbors asked for one, and then we started building it, and the whole thing
word
started.
of mouth.
But so the mechanicals started from this guy here. It was a chain drive system. But we use a commodity motor that's available in any country in the world.
Yep.
And they're used for heavy industry.
Yep.
And they're DC powered, which was extremely important for us.
Yes.
Because we wanted to stay in that off-grid capable DC motor.
And just the telescope universe, if you will, in general, it's all 12 volt.
Most of it is,
for the most part, right?
Yeah, I mean, you have some exceptions to that. You have some mounts that are AC mounts. A lot of the plane wave mounts are mains powered.
Yeah,
the big stuff.
That makes sense.
You've got some that are 24 volt DC, but most of your entry to mid level astrophotography mounts are going to be 12 volt.
Yeah.
Cameras are 12. There's just so many things on
all
the
of my stuff
are running
volt.
DC power.
Exactly.
Yep.
So we standardize on DC power from the beginning.
Yeah.
For another reason too, it's easier to work with. It's safer to work with.
Yeah. Oh yeah. You're not going to blow yourself up with a 12 volt battery, right?
So
I mean, if you take
I don't know how electric works.
If you take a wrench and put it across both terminals, you're going to have a bad time.
If you go Walter White on it.
But if you want to learn about that, just go to Styropyro on YouTube.
Oh, I love. Oh, yes.
He'll show you what not
love
to do
the channel.
on just about any piece of electrical equipment that he can get his hands on.
I think pretty much everyone knows him, even if you don't follow the channel.
Yeah.
We've all seen
I do want to talk about a couple of the new things that we've added to the Dragon layer in the last few months. One of those is our new mount park sensor. It is a Wi-Fi device that works directly with our Dragon layer.
Okay.
You put it on your network, and it will show and control whether or not it'll prevent the roof from moving unless your mount is parked. And it's not relying on the mount to tell us that it's parked, because sometimes all of us have had a mount that kind of gets confused about where it is, and it goes and says, "Oh, I'm parked," and it's really pointed up somewhere that it's not parked.
This was born out of necessity, was it not?
Necessity. And so one of the things that we do with it is this tiny little device. All it takes is USB power, and it connects to your Wi-Fi network, and it's got a little accelerometer on it. And so you mount it to your mount, to your telescope. The case for it is shaped where one side of it is the same as a Vixen dovetail.
Okay.
And the other side of it is the size of a finder scope dovetail. You can see it right here. And
it's not completed, but it's close.
Yeah, that's a 3D printed one.
Yep.
It goes right inside there, and so you can attach it to your telescope. Really, really tiny device.
Wow.
Yeah, and it's about 2 inches long by 1 inch wide.
Type C. I see a Type C port.
USB Type C.
Now,
which is what you want.
And that's all. And it's just for power. It's not for data. It's just for power. And then you put it on there. You go to the built-in web page that's on it, and all you do is you click a button that says, "This is the position that my mount is
parked."
And what we're talking about when we talk about safe here is that it's safe to move your roof.
Yes.
Right? Because a lot of us have telescopes that, depending on how the telescope is pointing, the roof could hit the telescope.
Absolutely. I mean, that's more common than it's not.
Exactly.
Right? Yeah.
And so, so we made this to make it easy to set up a mount position sensor.
And guys, this is smaller than a deck of cards. I mean, it's
tiny.
It's super tiny, and I'm guessing that you could get this even smaller in the future. Just looking at everything. I mean, it's awesome.
Well,
and talk about solving a real problem, right?
Absolutely, because what we've done in the past is we use those little reflector sensors.
One mounted on the wall, a reflector on your telescope.
Yeah,
park the telescope, and then you got to try to line the thing up.
And you found a problem with that, didn't you?
Well, a lot of it was our customers found that they were really difficult to install. For one thing. Because they were fiddly, you had to get these lined up just right.
They have sensitivity settings that have to be dialed just to get.
It was not a good experience for our customers. And so one of the things that we looked at as we were doing that, we're doing some more research into those light sensors, and it turns out that the light that they emit is right in the middle of the HA bandwidth. It's almost exactly the HA emission line.
Which, if you do not know, the most abundant gas in the universe, right? Hydrogen, hydrogen alpha, the light that comes off of it, is extremely common in astrophotography. Yes. Probably the most common, right?
And so what we realized is that we were inadvertently shining a light that is the hydrogen alpha line right at our telescopes all the time.
Near the
near the tip of the telescope.
Near the busy end of it.
So the reflector.
In other words, what you don't want to do.
Exactly.
So the minute that we made that realization, we both looked at each other and said, "No go."
Yeah, we got to change this.
So, and was this was commonplace across the industry as a whole using these types of sensors?
A lot of people use these for
because I'd heard of them. It's not uncommon
and stuff like that. And we realized that's just not something that we wanted to do.
We thought about using a mechanical switch at the pier, mounted near the mount, so when it came to a park position, a physical switch would close, and then that would give us a independent verification to our Dragon Lair roof controller that the mount was in fact parked. The problem is, how many different brands of mounts and makes of mounts are there?
Oh, so many.
You'd have to have a different bracket,
you would,
or a mounting
for all
scenario
of them,
for each of them, or you'd be relying on your customers to build their own.
Oh yeah,
and
ease of use is
was
huge.
Not there. It was not there. So coming up with this little device, it was actually pretty interesting because we were having this conversation, me and Rick, about what we're going to do, and as is the case with us often, I'll say something and it'll spark a light bulb. I can literally see the light bulb go off on top of Rick's head. And then I won't
You guys
hear
are
from
both
him.
like, I'm not going to sit here and toot your own horns, but you're two of the most intelligent people that I've met in my lifetime.
I appreciate that.
Yeah. And there's something to be said for that because, working in the IT industry, we tend to meet a lot of smart people. But I said when I first met you guys, a couple years ago, I was blown away when you showed me what you were doing, and you're just getting started.
Yeah. And when we're looking at these things, one of the features that we're going to be releasing here real soon with our with just a firmware update to our Dragon layers is cloud control, where you can actually log into the Dark Dragon's website to be able to control your roof and view its status remotely, and securely, without having to deal with setting up a custom VPN or a VNC or a remote desktop.
Just a plug and play solution.
You just browse to the website, log in, and be able to see the status of your roof, and be able to close it and
and control it from right there. So you'll be able to see, device logs. You'll be able to, you see the kind of history of the device and all that right there.
You'll be able to get observatory DC power condition.
Because so you can see the status of your actual.
You'll be able to see what is the voltage.
That's beautiful. I'm looking at the actual page for the Dragon Lair controller, and what we can see here is the actual voltage, current, etc., the status of the roof. It says it's fully open right now. The switch is tripped. It's incredible. And
watch this. Watch the amps go up.
All right, so he's pressing the close roof button.
Oh, it won't do that because it's marked
it won't because it's unsafe right now because both of their scopes are imaging. So
and
guys,
and both of the scopes have the mount park sensor.
Yep.
And they're both activated. Now, in an emergency situation,
and we're imaging right now, so we don't actually.
You don't.
I wasn't going to close it all the way.
But hey, look, it happens. People are forgetful, especially at the kind of hours that we're observing and imaging. You can make a mistake at 5 o'clock in the morning, and having a backup like that can save you thousands of dollars.
Yeah.
And if you've got a telescope that has an interference fit with the roof, meaning that when the scope is at an elevated position, the roof could hit it.
Yep.
If you've got a Tech 180 out there and your roof hits the Tech 180,
you're going to cry.
It's one of the biggest complaints that I consistently see about the ASI Air is that they still don't have a park scope feature. They literally don't have a way to say, this is where my scope is parked.
Yeah.
And then have it automatically go to the parked area.
Well, I will say that the ASI Air is an absolutely wonderful piece of equipment for someone who is setting up and tearing down.
Yes. Set up and tear down.
If you've got a permanent observatory, you want something a lot more full featured.
Yes.
Than an ASI Air.
Yes,
you
absolutely.
want more fine grained control over things, and the ASI Air is absolutely perfect for
what it is.
For what it is.
Yeah.
I've got one. I've got an ASI Air Plus.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
It's what I use on my portable imaging rig.
Yeah.
But for my permanent observatory.
It's completely different when you build an observatory.
I've got a dedicated little mini PC.
Yeah, that's what you want.
And you can get them nice and really nice ones on Amazon.
Oh yeah,
for real cheap.
a few $100 nowadays you can get enough.
Exactly,
it's nothing.
And I've got one of those, and it allows me to run more advanced imaging software than what the ASI Air has.
I was so this is probably we'll get into this deep on another episode because I do want to talk to you guys about it, but K-stars is something that we've actually never discussed on the Astrocast.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And I've mentioned it because I do know of it, but we've never really got in depth talking about it.
We were looking at it
earlier, and Jeff actually has it pulled up now, but Rick was showing me the features and how it shows you your entire night's imaging timeline, and just a ridiculous, like 30 different conditions that you can check. Everything from, let's see here, temperature, you can check the drift, you can check the size of your stars. Yeah, eccentricity.
HFR.
It's a lot more advanced than something like an ASI Air or even Nina for that matter. Well, which is something I never thought I'd say.
Using Nina, Nina's got some plugins that will get you
so you
can get information as well.
But one of the big advantages of this is it's running on Linux.
Yep.
Right?
Yeah, so you don't have to worry about Windows trying to install some updates
and restart over the night. This is something I said a couple weeks ago on the show. I said one of the biggest reasons that you would want to run Linux is because of the uptime. You don't have to worry about that because
my machine, I've got I'm over 6 months of uptime right now, and that's just because I actually manually installed some things that I needed to reboot.
You can just turn off updates, right? And say,
you lock it down. You lock it down.
Yeah.
Because when you're setting up a computer in a permanent installation, it's different than the one that you're going to use to run your portable rig, because that's usually the computer that goes with you around life.
Yep.
Here, we lock these things down. We put just what we need on them.
Yep.
And then we run them. Yep. We want them run light because we're going to do a lot of pre-processing and stuff at the pier.
Yeah.
Which is going to be really important for remote imagers to limit how much data they transfer.
Oh yeah, that's
because you want to do your stacking at the pier if you can, and then just transfer your masters over.
That makes sense.
But I will say that I really like Nina as well. It's a wonderful.
Oh yeah, I love Nina.
And the a lot of the engineers that work on it are really dedicated to making it as good as it can possibly be.
And they love astrophotography
I guess
as much, or if not
I
more
guess
than us.
what I was getting at is I was very taken aback at how fully featured K-Stars is. Absolutely. I always kind of thought it was like the little redheaded stepchild to Nina. I had no idea.
Oh no, because it has fully integrated guiding. You don't need a separate application for guiding.
Though you can run the Linux version of PhD on it if you want.
Absolutely.
So that's one of the biggest pains when I got started before I got my ASI Air and I learned on a laptop everything worked was downloading. Oh my gosh, I was running 5 or 6 different apps at the same time, and then you have to get all the ASCOM drivers, obviously, which is still something you got to do.
Personally, I think that I think that ZWO looked at K-Stars and said, "How can we turn this whole thing into something that can run on an iPad?"
Yeah,
because K-Stars is a fully integrated solution, much like ASI Air is, but it gives you a lot finer grain control, whereas ASI Air, it's designed to be, on a small screen.
It's the Apple, if you will. It just works.
Well,
it's simple. It does its job.
It's built for the app generation.
There you go. Yes.
A lot of people that are doing this now, they didn't grow up, learning how to use a command prompt.
How to compile code and build from source, and
they don't have any interest in doing it. That's great because they can use these tools like the ASI Air to be able to get in and really enjoy this hobby in a way that they didn't have access to before. It's great.
And that is where our technology starts. Was to take something that's extremely complicated and difficult to do.
And simplify it as much as we possibly can.
Which is huge because I feel like the next boom, if you will, in astrophotography, it's happening right now, and it's with the remote observatories. We're seeing it happen before our eyes. Mm-hmm. I mean, Rent-A-Pier is getting huge, right? That's all you hear about now is Rent-A-Pier.
Have you seen Starfront?
Starfront observatories, yeah. I've actually I've thought about sending a scope down there.
That video that was out recently, that place.
Yeah,
they're exploding.
Exploding. And the guy said, "I'll scale it as much as I can.
Absolutely,
just keep it going."
And most of the rigs are AM3s and AM5s.
Oh yeah, they said it. They get happy when they see an AM5 every time they open up a package with a red cat and an AM5. Can't be simpler.
Not fiddly.
But you guys, we don't have to get too deep, but you guys have seen the sub-arc second skies, I've heard.
Absolutely. Yeah. We've got a friend of ours who runs a remote hosting facility out in New Mexico, in Pie Town, New Mexico.
Howling Coyote Remote Observatory.
Howling Coyote.
Coyote, okay.
Yes. HCRO.
HCRO, NewMexico.com.
Google it.
And he's got, consistently gets sub-arc second seeing out there.
That's incredible.
He's Bortle 1. 7,500 feet of elevation,
so
I think.
30%
there's something to be said for that. Having that elevation makes a huge difference.
That's a mile of air that I don't have to shoot through.
Yes. Don't they say, isn't it like almost a magnitude per 1,000 feet? Up to a point, I think. Well, I've heard such tales throughout my time in astronomy. But
now, if you look at the raw data from the conditions at that facility in that part of the world, they rival Chile. In many
times,
on any given day, they could be better.
Yeah.
Now, you have a different set of targets, of course.
Yep.
So it'd be nice to have one in both.
You're not going to see the large Magellanic Cloud in New Mexico, but it's attainable for a lot of the the people in our generation that are into this hobby.
I don't know if he can get Omega Cent or not.
Maybe for a real early part of the summer.
Maybe for like a week, I don't know. But
at 5 hours a year.
When I was out at the coast with looking out to the east in June, that's kind of when it comes up for us, if you will. And whenever I slewed to it, I was so close, guys. I was so close, but I couldn't make it work, and I knew it wouldn't have looked great being on the horizon.
Sure.
I wanted a shot of it, Omega Centauri is an incredible one.
Go down to Big Bend National Park in Texas, and
far enough south
during the summertime, and you might be able to get I think it gets up to about 10 degrees, 15 degrees.
Really?
So.
Okay, that's and 15 degrees is.
It's okay.
It always blew. Well, I'll put it like this: whenever I see 15 degrees on one of the Star Trekker apps, you're like, "Oh God, I'll never be able to see that." But then you look at a star at 15 degrees, and you're like, "Oh, that's actually kind of up there. Yeah, it's not that bad."
Yeah.
Now, but just consider what these remote facilities have to do.
Oh yeah.
I mean, they have to open and close those buildings every night because they've got many customers.
Dozens of scopes at least inside each building.
So uptime and reliability
that's
is
where they're making their
absolutely
money.
Key.
Yeah, if you break that trust, then people aren't going to want to.
Yeah, and so that's one thing that we've made sure that our devices are, highly reliable.
Yes.
We've got, months of uptime on these things. This is not a device that you've got to, restart every day.
Doesn't require a PC to control.
Yeah, it's a completely standalone device, because it's a network device. It's
So if everything else goes to hell,
as long as you have the
you
proper
can still
power.
close your roof.
As long as you still got your power.
And if you set up redundant power in the 12-volt way like we talked about earlier, there's no reason you can't.
And you can walk out, and even if your network goes down, you can walk out and hit the hand controller and close it. It really is great to have. We've got automation built into the firmware, so you can actually
see the voltage monitor.
Yep. And so you can actually set up in the firmware to monitor the voltage of the power coming into the device, and if the voltage drops below a set point that you can configure, 11 volts, for example.
Your battery's dying, in other words.
And it's not being recharged. So your charging system, or if you're on a solar system, your battery condition is maybe getting poor.
Yeah. Which could be any number of things. I mean, our rat might have chewed through a wire and a ground shorting, and your battery's draining.
And so what we do is we've got two different set points you can put in there. One of them is that you want to have like a soft, error state.
Yeah.
Which is, hey, we're down below 11 volts. Show up as basically a weather unsafe for ASCOM.
Yeah.
It operates as a safety monitor. And so you could have Nina or something like that monitoring it and say, hey, it's saying that the weather's unsafe. Let's do a controlled shutdown. Park them out, all that good stuff.
Yeah.
The Dragon Lair doesn't park them out.
Dragon Lair,
the Dragon Lair is the base of this system.
Yeah,
correct?
That's the thing that actually moves the roof.
Okay, and you build everything else is kind of built out from that.
Well, this is where what I'm talking about here is all just in software.
Yeah,
and so it's in the firmware of the device itself. But but this would allow Nina or Sequence Generator Pro or SkyX or any of these other
APT,
any of these other pieces of software that you use for your imaging to see that you've gone into an error state. And so what can happen is you could lose power, but your PC is a 12-volt PC. It's still running. You've got your battery backup.
Camera's still going because it's still got 11.8 volts.
You're still imaging.
You wouldn't know until it stopped working.
And then the battery slowly discharges. And the voltage finally drops below a certain threshold, and it'll show up to Nina, say, hey, it's unsafe.
It's cloudy.
It's cloudy, quote unquote.
Close it up.
We cheat.
And so then it would say, all right, well, let's go ahead and park them out, close the roof, go through our shutdown procedures.
And you have enough juice left to do that?
Exactly.
Okay,
because you've set your voltage high enough.
Yes. To where once it gets to this.
And you tested your system at those voltages. You know that the roof will still close if you've only got 11 volts.
Well, then what you could do is we've got a second set point that is a, don't wait on Nina kind of set point.
Okay.
Maybe it's 10.5 volts. And say, once we hit this, just close the roof.
No matter what. Just close it. Yeah.
It still pays attention to the mount sensors. And so if you have an interference fit, it's not going to close it.
Yeah.
So if you're using the MPS that we were talking about earlier, and both of those scopes are still pointing up and they're activated,
it's not going to close the roof and hurt your telescopes.
Which is crucial.
That's crucial because getting a little bit of water or something like that on your telescopes is not nearly as bad as slamming your roof into
crushing it.
Now that's a good point. Our equipment has an ability to take some moisture.
Yeah.
When you're doing things.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
But now, you got to get that roof closed, you got to get it closed.
Yeah.
So any facility or observatory that's been set up like this, most likely is going to have a wise night vision camera somewhere?
Yeah, of course.
So if you're having an issue and you're watching your system, and my God, my voltages are going down, I'm getting the warning that it wants to close, but it can't because the mount's not parked and it didn't do it automatically. You go in there and you log into the mount controller, whatever software you're using, and then you tell it to park. Now, let's say that was sketchy. Let's say you had a mechanical issue with your mount was physically, mechanically not doing what you expected it to do. You might be able to get it to move just enough where it would clear.
Yep. Maybe have the
got a little camera that's watching it.
Yeah.
We have 3 from different angles, so we have one that's on a gimbal, so you can move it around.
Yeah.
You can
absolutely.
Move it. Yep. But if you're going to have an observatory like this is the kind of setup you're going to have in the observatory. You're going to be looking at multiple data streams to make the decision.
Yeah.
Can I close the roof?
Yeah.
It looks like I'm close.
Yeah.
And then because we built the system with extreme redundancy in mind, there's multiple ways to control the roof independent of the software you'd normally use to control it. Like
absolutely. So you're not just worried about Nina.
Yeah. So if your Windows machine crashes, then you can still go to the web page
directly to the web page,
built into the device.
Yep.
And control it that way. With our new cloud control, you'll be able to log in and operate the device that way.
That's super cool.
Now the device itself has redundant networking also.
Oh wow!
So we've got Ethernet
and Wi-Fi.
And you're going to want to set them both up as a fallback. Unless you're doing radio astronomy, then you're not going to want your Wi-Fi.
Yep.
Which we can
for all
disable.
the reasons we've talked about, right?
But if you were to get a wire cut for some reason,
a wire cut or wireless interference, etc., it could be
fall back to your other network.
Yep.
That'll allow you to at least access the page for the device.
The idea is to have as many options as possible to save your gear, right? In the kind of the worst case scenario.
And one of the other things I wanted to talk about here, if we scroll down a little bit further, is the actual automation that we have set up. So Jeff and I, we set this up when we did our observatory from the beginning. We knew we were going to have 2 different people, 2 different control systems, 2 different software.
That's a good point.
Running.
That's a good point because you guys have.
Yeah. It wasn't one astronomer with 2 scopes.
It's 2 separate people that could be imaging at different times.
Yeah. Could be finished earlier. Like if a target is going below the roof line, I'm done. It's only 2:00 in the morning. My control software would tell the roof, close. I'm done.
And we don't want to do that
because he's still
obviously not.
Yeah. And so what we did is the in the firmware of the device itself, you can actually set, basically, if the weather's good and the sun is below a certain altitude, open every night.
Every time those conditions are met.
Every time those conditions are met. And anytime those conditions aren't met, close.
How are you getting the weather conditions? How do you tie that in?
So you can hook it up to any ASCOM alpaca weather safety monitor.
Okay.
Right? And so
and there's a host of them.
All kinds to choose
all
from.
Kinds of cloud sensors, rain sensors, wind.
Yeah,
moisture,
all kinds of
et cetera,
And so, it'll connect to them, and it'll know, hey, the weather's good.
And not to mention, like most people, I'm guessing, and I'm not one of them yet, but I would imagine you check your camera before you open your roof 9 times out of 10, right?
And so, one of the things that you can do there is, because it's monitoring these things, and this makes it really, really good for remote hosting facilities.
So you guys know, I'm literally looking at the monitoring screen right now. It's showing the temperature.
This is in K-Stars. This is not on our system, but
this is okay. So this is in K-Stars, but your system talks to it because
no, this is the data coming from the club's weather sensors.
Okay, and then you can pull in from that.
And then we're using.
I gotcha. Okay,
we don't even have.
So it's almost like an API pool that you guys are doing.
And so but one of the things that this makes it really good for is for remote hosting facilities. So if you've got a building that has dozens of telescopes in it,
all run by someone else,
you don't want that one person is going to open and close a roof.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And you don't want somebody on site that has to go in and like click a button every night. What you want is an automatic system.
When the last guy's done.
Literally all you want is if the weather is good,
then it's
open the roof,
regardless if anyone's imaging or not.
If the conditions are met, whatever the conditions you want. And some of these sites have wind issues, right?
And that's built into our device so that as long as your ASCOM safety monitor,
because
is reporting safe, and the sun is below a certain position, which you can configure.
Yep.
And so if you want to open the roof when the sun's below 6 degrees, you can do that. If you want it when it's below 2 degrees, you can do that.
The device has a built-in GPS.
Yep. And so it's always going to have good time and location data,
which is crucial.
Which is crucial because with time and location, you always know where the sun is.
Yeah.
You know the day of the year.
Yep. And so
GPS, man, that's a whole episode waiting to happen.
And that's built right into the device.
You have to run the for our system. You have to run the
and with the cloud control
antenna outside of the building, of course. If it's under the roof.
But I got a quick question because you guys were bringing this out, and I was just thinking about this. You just brought up the sun. What if I wanted to do solar imaging?
Just override it.
So, like, if I wanted to do it, like, say I talked to the observatory owner, and I was like, hey, I'm gonna be imaging the sun for the next year. Like, what do you
for remote hosting facility?
Yeah,
that becomes kind of problematic because you don't want the roof to be open all day,
baking everybody's
everybody else's equipment is going to be
getting baked
in the sun, and if they inadvertently slew towards where the sun is, they could completely fry a sensor.
Good point.
Oh, right. Yeah.
So you don't want to do that.
Yeah.
Because you're Moravian.
So that would be like the observatory guy needs to know, like,
hey, we need a solar observing building. I would imagine.
Purpose built.
Because
just filters
are required.
But you could handle that, though.
Okay.
Yeah, cool.
You could absolutely do something like that and just have it closed every night.
Right. Exactly.
It's an observatory that's closed every night.
But there's a lot of these things, and then one other feature that we added, or that we are in the process of adding right now, that's really going to be a big boon for some of these hosting facilities is that cloud control.
Yeah.
And not just because you can control it, but because you can actually go to a web page and see the status of every one of your Dragon layers in one spot.
That's awesome.
Right. And so if you've got 8, 10 buildings, great, they'll both show up right there. If you've got 20 buildings, they'll all show up right there on the same screen. And because we're constantly sending up heartbeats to this cloud service, you're going to know if one of them goes offline during the day before it's supposed to open.
Oh, nice!
And so you're gonna know that you've got a problem.
Yep.
Before your customers do,
which is what you want because it's all about uptime.
Fix it before your customers even know
if you can't break that trust. You have to. If it's clear out, people expect. If they're paying good money for a pier, they expect that roof to be open if it's nice. So.
And we design the hardware, not electronic hardware, but the mechanical hardware with triple redundancy for control. So there's a manual on our commercial products.
Yeah.
There's a manual control on the NEMA enclosures that are mounted outside in the weather.
Yeah.
Okay? There's a way to control it just by a switch. But let's say in the case of a lightning strike or something that it took out some
like a catastrophic type
you can literally use an on-site pickup truck and this little device we call the jump starter. It's just a hand control switch with alligator clips that go on a battery, plug it into our motor with our power pole connectors, and then you can open that roof or close that roof
using the battery.
Just using a switch.
12-volt battery.
So if you've got a gator on a site with the runabout, and you've got maintenance personnel on site,
that's awesome.
And oh my God, I don't know what happened. Everything's broken. It's not automating. Okay, just go out there and close it with the manual control.
We are here talking with Dark Dragons Astronomy, and we'll be right back. I'm your host, Rue, and you're listening to the Astrocast. Welcome back to the Astrocast. I'm your host, Rue, and joining me again are Jeff and Rick from Dark Dragons Astronomy. And I was just going to ask you guys if you could give me like a 12-month recap of what life has been like in your company.
It's been a crazy, crazy year. We love what we've been able to tackle this year.
Yep.
And it all started with the move to the ESP32 processor, which started at the end of last year. Rick had a couple of development ideas he was working on, and then when we saw the benefit of using that new processor, it literally changed all of our products because now they all became more internet focused, more network focused.
Yes, more network savvy devices.
Yeah, and maybe Rick can talk about that. But when did we release that? That was ready later in the year.
No, that was towards the beginning of the year that we were able to get those out.
I think March is when we had our first batch of them out.
I think so.
I remember you guys showing me the prototypes for them.
Yeah, we had them out before NEAT.
Yeah. Yes, and that's when we talked. Whenever, well, not the last time we talked, but a couple times ago when I was down here, you guys were showing me prototypes, and it was before we went up to NEAT.
Yep.
Which, if you aren't aware, the Northeastern Astronomical Forum is
Foundation.
Forum. The Northeast Astronomy Forum.
It's the biggest astronomy trade show, if you will, of
for amateur astronomy.
Yeah, and amateur astronomy, and of course they were representing Dark Dragons there. So anyway, didn't mean to interrupt and go off on a tangent.
So we're getting ready for NEAT.
Okay.
And we got a call from a friend in the industry, and he put us in contact with some folks that were having some issues with their observatory system.
Okay.
And we talked to them on the phone, and we met with them when we went to New York for the NEAT exposition.
Yep.
And that turned into a project that lasted us through the middle of summer.
Big project then.
It was a big project.
Yeah.
It was a big project, and we're just so excited to be asked to be part of it.
Yeah.
What we did was we adapted our Dragon Lair roll-off roof control system into a dome controller.
Oh, wow. That's special.
So now we do dome.
So you can do dome and roll-off roof.
Yep.
And it's flexible, it's scalable. It sounds like...
Yeah, the one that we designed is specifically made for the observadomes. And replacing the old Dayton...
AC motor.
Yeah, mains powered motor.
Oh, yeah.
They had a switch to be, they had to control the position of the shutter.
Yep.
With just a switch left or right, counterclockwise, clockwise.
Yeah. And our club has an observadome. We've got a 4-meter observadome here.
Yes, we do.
That houses our 8-inch Alvin Clark, which is
an amazing scope.
Which was advantageous for us because then we had a testbed platform that we could at least look at.
Yep.
Because they were made from the same era.
Oh, wow. Okay.
The scope that was up in New York,
Yep.
or the dome that was up in New York, and the dome that we have access to.
So you had
here.
similar hardware to look at.
Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly. And so, we got the opportunity to take on that project, and and in 6 weeks' time, went from
ideas
and being approached about it to delivering a final product.
That's awesome.
That was made from scratch. And works to both control the shutter and the dome remotely.
Position.
And the dome can follow the telescope, so that as you slew your telescope to a new point in the sky, the dome automatically follows it, which is really, really great for observing. It's been great. We got to work with the folks at the community college that the dome is at. It was a really great experience for us. And
that's awesome.
Really got to make some great new friends in that.
That's fantastic.
So,
and being a community college, to have the imaging rig that they purchased for that dome for their students, it's a world class research grade rig.
That's awesome. And community college, like I didn't go to college personally, but we have a great community college here in Charlotte. And just to me, stuff like that is so important because not 20 years ago, it would have been impossible for people in that status in life to even think about having access to the tools that they have access to today. And it really is, it's awesome work that you guys are doing in that regard. And I can't say enough about that. And guys, I guess that's like kind of my main takeaway for all things Dark Dragons Astronomy is that you guys just really love what you do.
Absolutely. We really do. We're amateur astronomers ourselves. A lot of the things that we've built have been initially for us.
Yep.
And for our friends.
To solve a problem, right?
And solving a problem that we've run into.
Yep.
And trying to make these things robust and reliable in a way that that we haven't seen a lot of. When you've got uptime that's measured in hours or days on some of these products that are on the market now, and that's just not
that's not good
enough
for an observatory.
We need good, reliable systems that are uptime is measured in months or years.
Yes.
That's our goal.
Yeah.
And so we had that's just exactly what we want.
That's it in a nutshell.
That long uptime. So.
Because if you've got your telescope that you treat like a baby,
yep,
in a building somewhere, and something were to happen,
yep,
you need to be able to make sure that your equipment is safe.
And that's what you guys are selling peace of mind.
Yeah, we're striving to be the most reliable system out there. So.
And that's huge. And I guess this would probably be a good time to make kind of a special announcement.
Yes.
We're on our 40th episode. We're coming up on a year of the Astrocast. I've been great friends with Rick and Jeff and watched their company grow from day one and just been blown away. But anyway, I say all that to say that Dark Dragons is going to be the first official sponsor of the Astrocast, and I just want to thank both of you guys so much for that. It means a whole lot. We got a lot of people who tune in every week, and we've got a real special group of people that have been supporting the show. But to have our first actual company sponsoring us, when I started this back in January of last year, I wouldn't have imagined I'd be sitting at 40 episodes and talking to the owners of a successful astronomy company. So thank you guys so much for that.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
Because the content that you've been have been creating is just amazing.
Thank you.
I thrive and live on podcasts.
Same.
And I always got to have somebody talking in an ear.
Same. 100%. I have to. My brain's not engaged.
It drives my day through the day, and your content, your podcasts have been amazing, and we hope to grow with you.
This has to be a normal thing going forward, and I'm gonna go ahead and say it now so I hold myself accountable. We'll have this conversation again. We'll have different topics. And we will do it, with the nicer microphones, because I appreciate anyone who sat through this episode. I know normally I'm in a very controlled environment with, because I understand that, you eat with your ears first with a podcast. You know what I mean? And it's going to be a lot of fun. So I really am looking forward to working more with you guys in the future.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Absolutely. And real quick before we wrap up for the week, I just wanted to... take a moment. We give a recommendation every week on the Astrocast, and I thought this would be fun. Rick, I'm gonna pass it over to you. I believe you might have one this week.
Yeah. So I just got through reading the Silo trilogy of books. It's also a series on Apple TV, I believe.
Oh, nice.
But I haven't seen the series yet.
Okay.
But I just finished reading the books and I really enjoyed them. They were really great. Kind of a dystopian future. Everybody, like, all of humanity seems to be living inside of one, like, underground silo.
Oh, so like a Fallout-esque type scenario?
Kinda, but it's like, 100 and something floors.
Oh, wow.
Underground,
that's an interesting
a very stratified society, a few thousand people.
Who's the author?
I don't remember the author's name now. I'd have to look.
Isn't that funny? You're like me. You read so much, you'll read 3 books and
I know.
remember the author's name. I listen to a ton of audiobooks too. That's big for me.
It was absolutely great. Jeff's looking up the author right now. Hugh something.
Don't you love when they turn one
Hugh
of your...
Howey. Yeah.
Hugh Howey. Okay,
Yeah.
So the Silo series by Hugh Howey. An awesome series to check out. I certainly will be giving it a read, and by read I usually mean listen because I'm an Audible junkie. Guys, check that out. Thank you so much for tuning in with us this week. It's been a lot of fun. We'll be back next week with a new episode as always. Thank you so much for listening. I'm your host, Rue, and joining me are
Rick
and Jeff.
Thank you so much for listening to the Astrocast, and as always, clear skies.